Ouagadougou, 2023. It started with the sound of laughter in the courtyard. The courtyard of the presidential villa wasn't known for joy. Soldiers paced in silence. Ministers spoke in whispers. Even birds seemed to avoid the sky above it. But that day, Ibrahim Traoré stood in the shade of a neem tree, watching his personal bodyguard, Captain Serafine, laugh, carelessly, as if power hadn't changed him. That laughter would haunt him. "I need to see the books," Ibrahim had said calmly just hours earlier, seated alone in a sparsely lit war room, reviewing aid flows from an unnamed Gulf state. The account ending in 379. The one used for disbursement to the Fada region. His finance minister had blinked. "That's a restricted line, sir. Intelligence clearance only." Ibrahim looked up. "I gave that clearance. I want the logs." And in the silence that followed, something shifted. That night, a flash drive landed on his desk. No note. No signature. Just a glimmering red stick with 2 terabytes of everything no one wanted him to see. He didn't sleep. The money was supposed to build irrigation in the east. But the digital trail led elsewhere. Into encrypted accounts. Shell firms in Dakar. A shell firm tied to a contractor named Emerald Logistics. And Emerald had only one listed point of contact, Captain Serafine Ngozi. Traoré's most trusted man. The man who once stood between him and a sniper's bullet. The man whose mother had once baked bread for Traoré's mother during a siege. $5 million. Vanished. Like smoke. The next morning, Ibrahim didn't confront him. Not with anger. Not with rage. Instead, he called for tea. He had it served in the presidential garden, a ritual borrowed from older leaders, when disputes were handled in silence and respect. He poured the tea himself. 3 small cups, mint and strong. When Serafine entered, dressed in crisp fatigues, his face unreadable, Ibrahim gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit. Drink." The guard sat slowly, eyeing the porcelain like it might bite him. "Sir? I used to think betrayal came loud," Ibrahim began. "Gunfire. Yelling. Public humiliation." He took a sip, watching the steam. "But now I think it comes quiet. Like this. Like a man walking into your house and taking food from your table." Serafine's jaw tightened. "I don't understand." "You do. You just hoped I wouldn't." The silence stretched like a blade being drawn. Then Serafine looked down. Not ashamed. Calculating. "It was never meant to be personal," he said. "I've served you faithfully for 3 years. I saved your life more than once. The money was a thank you." Ibrahim cut in. Serafine's voice hardened. "It was survival. Everyone's doing it. Ministers, generals, even. But you were different." Ibrahim didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You were the man I trusted when I was sleeping. When I was vulnerable. And you took $5 million meant for people eating dirt in Tapoa. No denial. No confession. Just stillness." Ibrahim leaned back, his eyes never leaving the man's face. "You know what comes next, don't you?" Serafine nodded. "Interrogation. Prison. Trial. Execution, maybe." But Ibrahim only nodded to the tea. "I said drink." Serafine hesitated, then lifted the cup. A sip. His eyes flared for a moment, not from poison, but from realization. It was mint, but laced with bitterness. "It's from the east," Ibrahim said. "The region you stole from. Made by women whose children now die thirsty because of your theft." Serafine set the cup down slowly. "What are you going to do to me?" Ibrahim stood, the folds of his uniform brushing against the table as he turned his back to the man. "Nothing." Serafine's brow furrowed. "What?" "No trial. No execution. No news headlines. You'll return to your post, just as before. But I've already made the arrangements. For what? Ibrahim turned back. For everyone in your life to know exactly what you are. And then he walked away. That evening, Serafin returned to the barracks. But whispers were already there. A mechanic refused to salute. A lieutenant asked him how much 5 million tasted like. His phone buzzed endlessly, his sister, asking if the rumors were true. His old schoolmate, laughing in a voice note. Even his wife had left a single message, "You shame us." The punishment wasn't physical. It wasn't legal. It was exile among the living. In the courtyard, where laughter once lived, no one met his eye. And still, Ibrahim said nothing. Not to the press. Not to the generals. The betrayal was not denied, and yet it wasn't documented. No statement. No trial. Only silence. And that silence was louder than any bullet. The morning sun had barely warmed the bronze dome of Ouagadougou's defense ministry when the report landed on Ibrahim's desk. 7 soldiers dead. 3 wounded. A humanitarian convoy destroyed, its wheels still smoldering in the desert sand of the Sahel. The trucks were meant to bring food and vaccines to villages flanked by insurgent-controlled zones. But someone had leaked the route. The intel trail, again, led to a familiar name, Captain Serafin Ngozi. Ibrahim didn't speak. He stared at the report as though willing it to change. Minister Dembele, head of security, stood stiff across from him. We intercepted communications between someone in Serafin's unit and a foreign channel. Masked servers. Likely mercenary groups operating from Mali. Ibrahim's knuckles turned white around the paper. Are you certain? We're triangulating now, but the logs match a burner phone traced to Serafin's personal quarters. Sir, Dembele hesitated. This isn't just theft. If he did this, he's no longer a traitor. He's an enemy of the state. Ibrahim rose from his seat, slowly. Deliberately. No, he said. He's something worse. The rain that evening struck the tin rooftops like bullets. Thunder growled across the city like an old lion. Ibrahim waited in his residence alone, no advisors, no guards. Just a single chair, a single bulb, and a file on the desk in front of him. He had made a decision. Not out of rage. Not yet. But out of something colder. He flipped the file open again, images of the wrecked convoy, burned medical boxes, the blood-smeared radio. He remembered the children in Fada. Remembered their joy when vaccines had arrived for the first time. He remembered one boy, Malik, who had kissed his hand and whispered, "Thank you for remembering us." And now Malik might be dead because someone Ibrahim trusted forgot him. The intercom buzzed. Captain Serafin has arrived. Alone. Ibrahim didn't flinch. Send him in. The man who entered was not the same one who drank tea in the garden days ago. His uniform was wrinkled. His hair unkempt. There were dark hollows beneath his eyes, and his hands trembled, not with fear, but exhaustion. He knew something had shifted. You called for me. Yes, Ibrahim said. Sit. Serafin hesitated, then obeyed. His eyes flicked toward the folder on the desk. You leaked a convoy route, Ibrahim said flatly. I didn't. Don't lie. I'm not. Ibrahim tossed the file across the desk. It landed with a thud in front of him. Then explain the burner registered to your room. The account trace. The intercepted call signed off with your personal encryption key. Serafin looked at it. Then up at Ibrahim. I've been followed since the tea. Humiliated. Spat on. You told them all. I didn't need to, Ibrahim replied coldly. You betrayed me. I just let the truth walk free. Silence. Then, finally, Serafin leaned forward, hands on the table. I didn't leak the convoy route, he said, voice raw. But someone wants you to think I did. Someone wants me erased. Who? General Sari. Or Dembele. Maybe both. Maybe others. I was paid to steal that aid money, but I never kept it. I was laundering it for someone else. The moment you found out, I became a liability. Now they're tying loose ends. Ibrahim narrowed his eyes. And now you're a victim? No. I'm still a traitor, Serafin admitted. But not a murderer. He pulled something from his pocket. A second flash drive. Encrypted call logs. I backed them up in case someone came for me. They show transfers from Emerald Logistics directly to a holding firm in Dubai. Registered to Minister Dembele's cousin. Ibrahim took it without a word. The weight in his palm felt like molten iron. You could have run, Ibrahim said finally. You had time. I thought about it, Serafin replied. But I wanted to look you in the eye. I thought you'd kill me tonight. I still might. Serafin nodded. But first, Ibrahim said quietly, you're going to help me burn down everything you helped build. That night, as the storm raged on, Ibrahim summoned his intelligence chief, an aging Tuareg woman named Zainab who trusted no one under 40 and carried 3 knives in her belt. She plugged the flash drive into a secure machine and frowned. It checks out. It's not just Dembele. It's Sari. Bala. Even Minister of Health. The entire irrigation plan was a ghost project. They used the East as a pipeline to clean dirty money. Ibrahim stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. Zainab stepped closer. What's your move? He didn't turn. I'm going to invite them all to tea. Zainab arched a brow. Same place? No, he said. This time, it'll be in public. And this time, the world will watch. They entered the hall in pressed suits and carefully managed smiles. Generals. Ministers. Advisors. 7 men, each one seated at the heart of a different empire of corruption. Each had worn Ibrahim Traoré's crest, pledged allegiance to his revolution, and toasted his rise. And each one, now, had something to hide. They didn't know they were walking into their own execution. The hall was deliberately chosen, the national banquet room, lined with old colonial portraits and newly added war banners. The air smelled faintly of cardamom and mint. A long oak table stretched across the floor. At the head, only one chair remained empty. They all noticed. He's late, muttered General Sari, glancing at his gold watch. He's never late, replied Dembele, lips pursed. They had no idea Ibrahim had been watching them the whole time, through a discreet lens embedded above the national seal. Behind the scenes, he stood with Zainab and 2 trusted intelligence officers in a darkened viewing room. Zainab leaned in. They're nervous. They should be, Ibrahim said. And then he entered. The entire hall stood as Ibrahim strode in, not with ceremony, but with control. He wore a simple black uniform with no medals, only the flag of Burkina Faso stitched to the shoulder. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He simply sat. Let's not waste time, he said, pouring tea into the brass cups before him. Today's gathering is not ceremonial. It's a reckoning. Chairs creaked as men shifted uncomfortably. Over the past week, Ibrahim continued, a humanitarian convoy was ambushed. Children died. Soldiers died. And evidence now points to internal sabotage. A pause. The kind of pause that feels like thunder before the lightning. Minister Mbala tried to laugh. Surely you don't mean to suggest one of us. I'm not suggesting, Ibrahim cut in. I'm revealing. From beneath the table, he pulled a leather folder and slid it forward. 7 files. Each stamped with a name. He read them out loud. General Sari, 3 shell companies in Abidjan. 1 in Dubai. All funded through aid-linked accounts. Minister Dembele, direct beneficiary of Emerald Logistics. Your cousin's name is on 2 laundering trails. Mbala, for rigged contracts tied to non-existent road repairs. 50 million siphoned through ghost towns. One by one, the men paled. Everything, Ibrahim said, is here. Call logs. Transfers. Voice recordings. Doctored project images. And your encrypted keys tying you to all of it. You've been watching us. Bala whispered. No. I trusted you, Ibrahim said. That was my mistake. Sorry slammed a hand on the table. You can't do this. You need the military. We are your spine. Ibrahim rose slowly. You're not the spine, he said coldly. You're the tumor. Gasps. Whispers. Sari's face flushed red. This is a coup, he growled. No, Ibrahim replied, stepping aside. This is justice. The wall behind him flickered to life, a live video feed, streaming directly to state television and social platforms. Everything, every word, every accusation, was already broadcasting live across the country. The hall erupted into chaos. You're insane, barked Dembele. You'll destabilize the entire administration, cried Mbala. But Ibrahim didn't flinch. You already did, he said. At that moment, Zainab entered with a team of soldiers, armed, silent, and bearing sealed warrants. Gentlemen, she said, you're under arrest for corruption, treason, and criminal sabotage. One by one, they were led away. Cameras recorded every second. Not one of them resisted. Because none of them had expected the trap to be so quiet, or so public. Hours later, the streets of Ouagadougou erupted. But not in violence, in celebration. People poured into the streets, waving flags and chanting Traoré's name. Messages flooded social media, he did it. He took them down. For a brief moment, Burkina Faso believed in leadership again. But not everyone was cheering. Back in the presidential residence, Ibrahim sat alone in his war room. The cheers were distant. Echoes through bulletproof glass. Zainab entered quietly. It's done. They'll be transported tonight. Trial within the month. And Serafine, he asked. He's waiting for your word. Ibrahim didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted to a photo on the wall, an old image from the early days of the revolution. Mud on his boots. Fire in his chest. Back when everything was simple, the enemy wore a uniform and pointed a gun. Now, they wore suits. And smiled as they stabbed. Bring him to me, Ibrahim said. The storm rolled back in as if it knew something was unfinished. Zainab stood in the doorway of the safe house, soaked to the elbows, fury etched into every line of her face. The guards had no answer. The cameras had been disabled an hour before. No signs of a struggle. No blood. Just that steaming cup of tea and a note that taunted like a smirk in the dark. She relayed it all to Ibrahim in clipped, professional tones, but he saw the rage behind her discipline. He played us, she said. Again. Ibrahim stood beside her, arms folded, eyes fixed on the empty chair where Serafine had sat just the night before. He didn't just vanish. Someone helped him. Someone inside. Zainab nodded. No way he slipped all that security without someone turning a blind eye. There was another silence. One not of confusion, but of betrayal, thickening once more in the air like unspoken war. He still has allies, Ibrahim said quietly. And now they know I won't hesitate to destroy them. Then the next strike, Zainab said, won't be about money. It'll be about blood. By the next day, the city's celebratory mood had changed. The people still cheered Traoré's broadcasted crackdown, but rumors spread fast. The guard who took the money. The one who confessed. He's gone. Some said he'd fled to the north to join rebels. Others claimed he was assassinated by those he'd exposed. The most dangerous rumor, though, was the one that caught fire in the markets and alleys. Serafine didn't betray Traoré again. Traoré let him go. The doubt it sowed was almost worse than the betrayal itself. Ibrahim could feel it in every meeting. The sidelong glances. The soft coughs before hard questions. A new whisper had entered the palace walls: does the captain still serve the president, or does he now serve something else? Late that night, Ibrahim summoned no one. He drove himself. No escort. No convoy. Just a black jeep and a silence heavy as stone. He arrived in the southern village of Kédougou, to the home of Serafine's mother. She opened the door with swollen eyes, but no fear. Just grief. "Ibrahim," she said softly. "Where is he?" Her lip trembled. She stepped aside without a word. Inside, the home was bare. A worn couch. An old photo of Serafine as a boy with his arm around Ibrahim, back when they were both just cadets. That image stabbed deeper than any headline. "He came here?" Ibrahim asked. She nodded. He looked thin. Tired. Said he couldn't run anymore. Said he didn't deserve forgiveness, but he wanted his son to know he had once believed in something. Once. Ibrahim sat slowly across from her. "I loved him like a brother," he said. "And he stole not just from the people, but from that love." "I know," she whispered. "But you also made him a ghost." He looked at her. "You let the whole world devour him alive. You didn't punish him. You unmade him." He said nothing. Outside, thunder cracked again. 2 days later, Zainab burst into the war room, eyes blazing. North Border Post intercepted a signal. "Serafine's alive." Ibrahim looked up, heart thudding despite himself. He was spotted in Goram Goram, posing as a merchant. But they didn't catch him. "Then what do we have?" "A recording," she said, handing him a device. He pressed play. It was grainy, from a drone. Serafine was speaking to a Tuareg commander, arms folded, eyes shadowed by the sun. "They think I'm a traitor to the people," his voice said. "But I was only a traitor to a man. I still believe in the country. But he, Traoré, he made me into something unforgivable." There was a pause. "So now, I become what they fear most. A man with no flag." The audio cut. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. Zainab leaned in. "He's not just running anymore. He's gathering something." "Support?" "No. Sympathy." Back at the palace, Ibrahim stood once more at the garden where it all began, where he had once served tea to a man he thought he knew. The neem tree was bare now. The air heavier. He turned to his aide. "Draft a national address. Tomorrow. Topic? Betrayal. Trust. Justice." The aide blinked. "And, what do we say about Captain Serafine?" Ibrahim stared at the ground for a long time. "Then, we say nothing. But the people will fill in the silence themselves. Let them wonder." A pause. "But make sure they know one thing," Ibrahim added. "That I may forgive many things. But not a man who breaks his oath, and then hides behind a cause." The boy, Malik, didn't understand the power of the message at first. He was just 11, his village burned, his mother buried under red sand, his memories of school replaced by the rhythm of waiting in food lines. But when the aid workers saw the cloth in his hand, their voices lowered. They whispered to each other. One of them made a call that night. And the next morning, the camp commander ordered that Malik be moved. Quietly. No one told him why. But far across the border, in Ouagadougou, the note had already reached Ibrahim. He sat in the early morning light, reading it again and again, his fingers tracing the faded signature. No full name. No address. No threat. Just a promise. Zainab, seated across from him, was the first to speak. This is either his final warning, or his final plea. Ibrahim didn't respond. He turned the cloth over in his hands like it might bleed something deeper. He's calling back the past, she continued. Trying to prove he's not the villain of this story. Ibrahim stood and walked to the window. Rain again. Always rain when choices hurt the most. He's testing me, he said. To see if I'll make the same mistake twice. Zainab stood. You know what must be done. He nodded. 3 days later, Malik arrived at the capital in an armored jeep. He had no idea what to expect. But when the palace doors opened, and Ibrahim Traoré himself stepped forward and knelt to greet him, it felt like time shattered. You survived, Ibrahim said softly. Malik nodded. You came. Ibrahim smiled. Not yet. But you reminded me why I must. He led the boy inside, not to a press conference, not to a parade, but to a small private room. On the table were 3 cups of tea. Mint. Steam curling like memory in the air. Do you know why we drink tea in 3 cups? Ibrahim asked. Malik shook his head. The first is bitter, like betrayal. The second is strong, like truth. The third is sweet. He poured the tea. This cup, he said, is for forgiveness. Malik's fingers wrapped around the porcelain. Is it for you? Or for him? Ibrahim smiled, but his eyes were tired. Both. Maybe. That evening, Ibrahim made no speech. No declarations. He disappeared from the cameras and went somewhere only 2 people knew. The desert. Not to a base. Not to a border. To a stone circle once used by elders to settle blood feuds. It was ancient, sacred to the Fulani and the Mossi alike. No guards. No wires. Only wind. He waited for 4 hours before footsteps echoed in the dust. Serafin emerged, wearing a worn uniform with no insignia. His beard had grown. His eyes had changed. But he walked like a man who still carried purpose in his spine. You came, Ibrahim said. You summoned me. No. He did. Ibrahim gestured to the sky. You wrote a boy a note. Promised him water. Serafin nodded. I meant it. Ibrahim sat on one of the stones. Then this is your chance. To do what? To finish what we started. Or end it forever. Silence. Then Ibrahim placed a pistol between them. 1 bullet. No tricks. Either we both walk away from this, Ibrahim said, or only one does. Serafin looked at the gun. Then at Ibrahim. And then he did something no one expected. He kicked the gun aside. I won't kill you. Because despite everything, I still believe in what you tried to build. And yet you tore it down. I was used. And I was weak. But I never stopped believing in the idea of you. Even when I hated the man. Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. Then what now? Serafin stepped forward. Now I return to the place you tried to bury me. I speak the truth. Publicly. I confess. I name every name. And I make it clear that the man I betrayed still stood taller than the system that broke us both. Ibrahim stared at him. No deals. No immunity. None, Serafin said. Ibrahim didn't answer. He just stood. Then, slowly, he offered his hand. It hung in the air for a second, shaking with decades of history, and then Serafin took it. They shook like brothers who had once bled together. Who might again. A week later, the entire country watched as Serafin stood before a tribunal, not to deny, but to confess. He exposed every scheme, every official, every weakness in the nation's veins. Not for pardon. But for penance. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He asked to serve. And when the judge asked what sentence he believed was fair, he replied, whatever keeps the revolution alive. Malik, now enrolled in a new school built by the very funds once stolen, watched from the audience. He saw 2 men, a leader and a ghost, reborn in the same courtroom. Ibrahim sat in the front row. And as the final verdict was read, and the sentence delivered, 10 years in hard labor, no parole, Ibrahim stood and did something no one expected. He bowed his head. Not in shame, but in respect. Because the punishment had never been exile, prison, or death. It had always been the weight of living with the truth, and carrying it, day after day. That was the unexpected justice. That was leadership. And that was how a guard who once took $5 million, returned something far more valuable. His soul.